Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The fentanyl crisis is especially acute in my home state of Arizona, where thousands of Arizonans die from opioid overdose every single year. I know my colleagues and I across the aisle agree. We need to do more to stop the flow of fentanyl and other deadly narcotics into the United States of America. That's why I'm at a loss to understand why the Trump administration has moved to cut funding for the State Department's Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs work in Mexico. Drastic cuts. INL works across law enforcement agencies, intergovernmental agencies, and with the courts in our partner countries to disrupt the illicit drug trafficking and bring criminals to justice. Under previous administrations and with funding approved in a bipartisan manner, Mexico has been the third largest recipient of INL funds. INL supports more than 100 projects working to combat fentanyl trafficking and transnational crime by providing services, training, and much needed equipment. One project that has benefited from the INL has deployed cargo scanners and drug testing equipment to Mexico's port of Manzanillo, critical technology to detect and interdict precursor chemicals from the People's Republic of China. Another INL project supported a recent operation in Tucson, Arizona, that led to the arrest of drug trafficking leader and 6 other operatives, a good return on taxpayer investment. Since the Trump administration's freeze on foreign aid, only 15% of INL's programs in Mexico have received waivers to resume their work, and many of those have not yet received payment. As former ambassador and Marine helicopter pilot John Feely phrased it recently, quote, "They shot the golden goose right in the leg," unquote. Make no mistake about it. The Trump administration is hamstringing our response to fentanyl in the region, and while using this crisis as a justification to raise taxes on working families through the misguided across-the-board tariffs on Mexico. Mr. Isaacson, how does this massive cut to INL program hamper our ability to stem the flow of fentanyl into the United States?
It definitely deals a blow to our efforts against fentanyl. This is the hardest drug challenge we've ever faced. All pure fentanyl that's consumed in the United States in a year can fit in the beds of 2 or 3 pickup trucks, spread out across a 2,000-mile border. Unfortunately, about 2/3 of it coming right to your state right now. In order to fight this, it's not just a matter of scanners at the border. You need cooperation from Mexico on everything you named: investigators, prosecutors, ports, intelligence, all capital letters. And you cut that off in 90 days and then maybe restart it, you have to restart everything all over again. It's incredibly disruptive.
I appreciate that. Now, I have, in my time in public life, both here in Congress and formerly as mayor of Phoenix, Arizona, have been a friend of Mexico, making the case that we need to have a stronger economic unit between United States, Mexico, Canada, and that's how we're going to win this economic battle with China. As a result, I've been a critic of the recent judicial reforms in Mexico, which I think is a step backwards in terms of promoting U.S. investment in Mexico. INL has helped to train Mexican institutions to build and present strong legal cases against organized crime. Mexico's forensic labs and prisons are accredited to reach higher standards for forensic testing due to INL support. U.S. officials helped to train police investigators in Mexico City, reducing violent crime in Mexico City by 58%, in partnership with now President Sheinbaum. And INL support helped Mexico law schools update their curriculums to include Mexico's criminal law reform. These offices that train police and prosecutors and relied on INL funds are now cut drastically by the dismantling of foreign assistance. So another question from Mr. Isaacson. You hosted a podcast last October about Mexico's constitutional reforms, where you opened by saying, quote, "Promise to be serious setbacks in the struggle to hold powerful people and institutions accountable for corruption." How do Mexico's constitutional changes, including reorganization of National Guard and judicial reforms, concern you? Maybe you could go on a little bit. For those who haven't listened to your podcast, go on a little bit more about the threat of the constitutional reforms.
Sure, and I hope you call in my colleague who runs our Mexico program, Stephanie Brewer, who really knows this stuff. But they just changed their judiciary so that judges are now popularly elected. Like, people are going to come and vote for a long list of judges. A justice system, especially when they're working on these very complicated, very dangerous cases against these networks of corruption and powerful people who are willing to kill them, need to be free of political pressures and need to be autonomous. And this just dealt a strong blow to that. as well as substituting police and detectives and people who are in the community with National Guard troops who rotate in and out. That also makes it harder to actually, you can find crimes when they're happening, but you can't really get to the root of who is behind them.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, I yield back.
Thank you. I now recognize Representative Shreve of the state of Arizona.